If you enjoy nature, street, or macro photography and have not tried photo biking, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun. And today I'm going to share with you 5 tips to have great success and fun with photo biking. Let's get into it with tip number 1. I recommend going with the minimalist setup. My setup today for photo biking is super simple, very minimalist. So just the 30mm macro and the Olympus EM5 Mark III. This 30mm macro is also what I've been finding out for the last few weeks, just an amazing walk around everyday carry and street photography lens. I thought that this lens being so cheap might have a lot of issues with flaring or just generally not be great for anything other than close-up macro. But check out some of these pictures that I've taken over the last few weeks since getting this lens that are not macro photos. Tip number 2 is be ready at any time to jump off the bike and take photos of any opportunity at hand. For example, as I'm riding, I just noticed off to the side there are some milkweeds. It's the middle of July, so the milkweed pods are already growing. This is that same milkweed plant, but you can see this one is in a different stage where the pods have not started coming out yet, and instead it has these flowers. See the red beetles and some assassin bugs. There's also some ants and a lot of aphid activity. So I think this will be great for the macro lens. Don't have a flash, but there is a very good light out this morning. And some clouds are also softening the light a little bit. So let's try to get some shots. Those aphids are quite cute and fun to photograph, especially when they're not in your own garden. Tip number 3 is set up your camera for photo biking. Custom One I have set up for macro, and aperture priority right now I have set up for speed shooting from the bike. For the aperture priority, I just keep it at f8, f9, toggle in between there a little bit, mostly because I bumped the wheel, but trying to keep it at least at f8. And I have a minimum shutter speed set to 1/500, but with the bright sunny conditions, I'm getting usually much faster. The main difference though between my aperture priority and the custom mode for this setup is the focusing mode. So I have it on focusing mode 1, which is where you half press the shutter and that will focus. So that is good for the rapid fire shooting that I'm doing, and I have a large central focusing area. When I switch to custom 1, that's for my macro. So that switches back to back button focus, and then we can easily toggle back and forth. So when I'm in macro mode, whether I'm doing video or photography, I like to have it single focus plus manual focus on the back button. So basically focus with the back button, can rock back and forth, but also if I need to, I can just adjust the lens barrel to do some focusing also, which works out really well for the video mode. But the key with photo biking, at least for me, is to be able to easily switch in between those two modes. So when I get back on the bike, I just switch into my rapid fire, set it and forget it mode, and I'm ready to go again, because you never know when you're going to see a shot. So tip 4 definitely follows tip number 3, and that is have your camera at the ready. So for me, what that means is having a wrist strap like the Peak Design here, and I will hold the camera like this when I'm biking. Let me show you. Whereas you're riding, you will have scenes like this approach where you might have bikers or walkers coming in your direction. So if the camera's in your bag, you're not going to be ready to get potential shots in a moment's notice. So set up like this, we can get quick shots whenever we need to. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, please click like. It helps out the channel. Consider subscribing if you love photography, especially nature and macro photography. Subscribe or check out some of the other videos on the channel. Before we get to tip number 5, I want to share 2 quick bonus tips, and these are great. So tip number 1, bonus tip number 1 is have a lens or a camera that supports a close-up or macro mode. Even if you're not into macro photography, a lot of times when you're out photo biking, opportunities will present themselves for great close-up or macro situations. That's one reason I love this 30mm macro lens. It's super sharp, it's cheap, it is a great walk-around normal view lens and also a close-up macro lens. All right, as I'm climbing this big hill here, I will try to get out bonus tip number 2. Bonus tip number 2 goes in conjunction with knowing and setting up your camera, but more specifically, set up your camera when in rapid fire mode to not have to worry about looking at the screen or through the viewfinder. I've got my camera settings tweaked so the shutter speed will be high and I can generally point the camera in the right direction, hold down the shutter button, and I might get something. In street photography, this is known as hip shooting or shooting from the hip, because you don't raise your camera up to eye level. When photo biking, this is super useful. Just got off the bike, I noticed another patch of some beautiful wildflowers growing here, right off the bike path, and there's some bees at work, so we'll get some close-up photos. So I'm switching back to my custom macro mode, super quick, and I am ready to go. All right, and finally, tip 5. Tip 5 is have fun. Really, this is meant to be fun. When I do this, I'm generally not going out with a specific photo or target in mind. I'm out to enjoy nature, get some exercise, and also have the camera at the ready when something presents itself. Sometimes when I'm out, especially in nature like this beautiful forest preserve, I'll see something off in the distance and I'll wish I had my 75 to 300mm zoom lens or the 90mm macro. And that's gonna happen no matter what type of photography you're doing, right? You have a lens on your camera, and if you like doing lots of different types of photography like me, you're gonna always see opportunities present them for the camera that's not, or for the lens that's not on your camera. Have fun when you're photo biking. Don't worry about it. It's kind of zen in a sense, where you just go out, set it and forget it, take some shots, and maybe you get back with a few keepers, maybe you don't. For me, it doesn't matter. This is about getting out, getting some exercise, having fun, and maybe we get back with a couple good shots, maybe we don't. So get out there, have fun, and enjoy your photo biking. Let's look at a few more shots we got, and let me know down in the comments if you photo bike, maybe you call it something else, and what your setup is for getting out and photo biking. Down in the description, I will share my camera settings and a few more details. Now let's look at a couple more images we got while we were out doing photo biking today. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.